a useful 8. Because obviously we are all itching to know what Dr. Taraban's ideal woman is.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic for today's short talk is a useful 8.
I don't know if he genuinely believes the stuff he's spewing or if he's just capitalizing off a profitable niche. To be honest, I don't give a fuck. I'm honestly ashamed to have the same degree as him.
Yes, I love videos like this. Not because someone is about to get destroyed, not because one psychologist is about to expose another, but because we are watching two psychologists with the same degree go to war over the manosphere. And what is interesting is not who wins the argument. What is interesting is what neither of them is saying.
A couple of weeks ago, I got a video request from one of my patrons, Lily. She brought to my attention an account by somebody called Orion Taraban asking me to break down his content. At first, he seemed to me just your run-of-the-mill manosphere content creator with video topics such as men are the prize and women want it all. But then I noticed something concerning. This man has a PsyD, which is the same degree that I have. So at that point, I realized, oh, this guy is using his perceived expertise as a psychologist to spread a very dangerous anti-woman message. And who better to explain why his rhetoric is not based on any credible psychological theories than a woman who also has a doctorate in psychology. Let's do just that.
So we have Dr. Anna, a female psychologist with a doctorate, reacting to Dr. Orion Taraban, a male psychologist with a doctorate, who built a channel around relationship dynamics and the manosphere. Now, before we go any further, let us establish something important. This channel does not exist to defend or attack either of these creators. What we are here to do is what we always do. Look at the pattern underneath the content. And the pattern here is fascinating. Let's get into it.
Ain't that a man?
So Dr. Taraban calls his psychology psych hacks, which sounds great in theory, but the issue is that he hasn't truly provided any psych hacks or any evidence-based psychoeducation on his channel in about 3 years. 4 years ago, when Dr. Taraban first started his channel, his videos were on respectable, scientifically sound topics, such as how to let people be wrong and use emotions to make better decisions. And then about a year in, something curious happened. He published a video titled, "Guys, Find Your Ugly Duckling or How to Find a Good Woman," which got about 10 times the amount of views that he was typically getting around that time. For the most part, he went back to his regularly scheduled videos, but more and more manosphere-sounding titles started to get peppered in there, until eventually pretty much all of his content started to sound very woman-negative. Women treat men the way men treat jobs. Women punish the men they like. Women want it all, which has 427,000 views, juxtaposed with the video right before it, which was about neglected kinds of love, which only got 8,400 views. The red-pilled content got about 50 times more engagement than his regular content.
Stop right there. She just handed us the most important data point in the entire video, and she walked straight past it. Dr. Taraban's regular psychology content, respectable, evidence-based, scientifically sound, got around 8,400 views. His woman-negative content got 427,000 views. 50 times the engagement. 50! Now, Dr. Anna presents this as evidence that Dr. Taraban sold out, that he chased the algorithm at the expense of his integrity. And she may be right about that. But here is the question she never asks. Why? Why are millions of men clicking on that content? Why does a video called "Women Want It All" get 50 times the engagement of a video about neglected kinds of love? What need is that content meeting that his regular psychology videos were not? Because if you are a psychologist, and Dr. Anna is a psychologist, that is the most important question in the room. Not, is the content scientifically sound, but why is it resonating with so many men so powerfully that it gets 50 times the engagement? She never goes there, not once in the entire video.
Dr. Taraban's more recent content seems to be largely based on what the red pill community calls sexual market value. According to this theory, relationships between men and women can be simplified into an economic system. Men and women hold value to potential or actual sexual partners based on different things. Men based on income, women based on youth and age. The sexual market value theory is not credible or scientifically sound in the field of psychology. It greatly exaggerates and oversimplifies tiny tiny seeds of truth from theories that do exist, such as the social exchange theory, which says that relationships are all a cost-benefit analysis and they require some level of reciprocity for them to be healthy, or the mating strategies theory, which says that people use different mating strategies whether they're pursuing a short-term or long-term partner. Evolutionary psychology does love to talk about how men on average prefer younger and more beautiful partners, and women do on average tend to prefer men who have higher income due to evolutionary reasons. However, even when averages do exist, they're probabilistic, not deterministic, meaning it would be accurate to say women self-report preferring blank trait on average, but it's not scientifically supported to say women will always go for a Chad.
Now here is where it gets interesting for us specifically. Dr. Anna says sexual market value theory is not credible or scientifically sound in the field of psychology. And then in the same breath, she says it greatly exaggerates tiny seeds of truth from theories that do exist. Pause on that. Seeds of truth. She said seeds of truth. So the observations are not entirely fabricated. The framework is just overstated. That is a meaningful concession from someone who is supposed to be debunking the whole thing. She is not saying men and women have identical mate preferences. She is saying the red pill version overstates the differences. We've been saying exactly that for years. The data exists. The biological reality exists. Alison Armstrong spent 35 years documenting it. The World Happiness Report confirmed it. The issue is never the observation. The issue is what you do with it.
And in fact, even within evolutionary psychology, large meta-analyses have raised questions into the assumption that men and women really do prefer these things. When those differences exist, effect size tend to be quite small, which suggests there are other, a lot more important variables at play in what draws people to each other. Gender equality in society tends to greatly reduce those differences. What people say they want in self-report questionnaires is often not what they actually go for in reality. And so the truth seems to be that women tend to report prioritizing financial resources in a partner slightly higher than men do, and men tend to report wanting attractiveness and youth in a partner slightly more than women do. Evolutionary forces, of course, play a role in mate selection, but red pillars way exaggerate that role. And in my opinion, evolutionary psychology is one of the weakest subfields of psychology.
This is the most honest moment in the video, and it flies by in about 20 seconds. She says what people report wanting in questionnaires is often not what they actually go for in reality. Women report prioritizing financial resources slightly higher than men. Men report wanting attractiveness and youth slightly more than women. Slightly. She says slightly. Gentlemen, that word is doing a lot of work right there, because the lived experience of the men watching Dr. Taraban's content is not slightly. It is not a small effect size on a questionnaire. It is the reason they are sitting in front of a screen at midnight watching a psychologist explain why the game feels rigged. Dr. Anna is giving them the academic version of the answer. Dr. Taraban is giving them the emotional version, and the emotional version is getting 50 times the views because it is meeting men where they actually are, not where the research says they should be.
But let's look at some of Dr. Taraban's claims more closely, starting with this video that he titles his ideal woman a useful 8, because obviously we are all itching to know what Dr. Taraban's ideal woman is.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic for today's short talk is a useful 8. So from time to time, I receive a specific question from both men and women. Orion, you talk so much about sexual relationships, so tell us, what is your ideal woman? Here it is. For me, an ideal woman is a useful 8.
So let's break down the two components of this sentence. Useful, which relies on this very self-centered transactional outlook of relationships, and 8, which relies on a very objectifying view of relationships, which again boils down a person's value into one numerical score.
Oh my goodness! Notice what happens here. The word 8 immediately becomes objectification. But does it? People rate everything. Restaurants, movies, hotels, even themselves. A man might say, I am a 6. I need to get in shape. Nobody calls that self-objectification. A woman might say he is a 7, but his personality makes him a 10. Nobody calls that objectification either. So before we conclude, Dr. Orion is objectifying women, we first have to ask, what does the 8 actually represent? Appearance, character, relationship value, overall compatibility? Because if it is simply shorthand for overall mate value, then we are not talking about objectification. We are talking about classification. And those are not the same thing. Dr. Anna jumps straight to the conclusion without interrogating the premise. And a psychologist should know that the conclusion is only as strong as the premise it stands on.
Starting with the first part, useful. What, you might ask, does Dr. Terabin thinks makes a woman useful? Well, serving a man.
Well, it means that she must actively generate value. And 8, to be helpful. A good woman, a smart woman, once she secures access to a man, starts to look around, starts to carefully observe a man's life and what he is trying to accomplish in order to identify opportunities where she can be of service. But Orion, some women will say, why would I want to serve a man?
I think I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. That's a pretty disgusting way to view dynamics between men and women. It reveals a very hierarchical view of the genders, where women are relinquished to the role of servant. They're basically beneath men. Now, as you'll see later on in the video, Dr. Terabin likes to redefine words. So let's look at the actual definition of servant so that he can't sort of backtrack and pull a Motte and Bailey fallacy. A servant is an individual who performs duties about the person or home of a master or personal employer. So here we get an idea that is going to continue to come up in his content, that men are kind of like women's employers, and that romantic relationships should involve a woman doing things for a man that make his life easier. Now, what effect do you think this will have on relationships?
Now here we have to make another distinction, and this one is important. Dr. Orion says to be of service. He says useful. He says generate value. And then Dr. Anna looks up the definition of servant and builds her entire counter-argument around that word. But he never said servant. He said serve. And those are not the same word. To serve has multiple definitions. The Cambridge Dictionary defines it as, Janice, read.
To help achieve something or to be useful as something. Or, if something serves you, it is good or helpful for you.
The Merriam-Webster defines it as,
to be of use. To be favorable, opportune, or convenient. To be worthy of reliance or trust.
Why does being useful to someone have a negative connotation? Your doctor serves you. Your lawyer serves you. Your accountant serves you. A good spouse, male or female, serves the other person in the relationship by being useful, reliable, and trustworthy. A woman who asks, what does this man need and how can I support what he's trying to build, is not beneath him. She is his complement. That is not hierarchy. That is unity. Dr. Anna took the word serve, replaced it with servant, looked up the definition of servant, and then built a case against a word Dr. Orion never used. That is not debunking, that is a straw man, and a psychologist should know the difference.
And regardless of gender, the relationship will deteriorate between two people hearing this, because one or both partners will start to see it as transactional. And recent research has shown us how it's incredibly corrosive to treat relationships like transactions and to keep score. This recent long-term study from Germany found that when partners expect something in return for favors or sacrifices, their relationship satisfaction declines. It seems to be a pretty immediate predictor of a drop in the relationship satisfaction. Partners keep score, and immediately afterwards, their relationship quality plummets. There's no evidence in the study that people who are unhappier tend to then view relationships as more transactionally. The opposite seems to be true. And even if both partners are equally transactional in their view, that doesn't seem to help their relationship satisfaction. So a psychologist who encourages people to objectify each other and views relationships as transactional either doesn't have a good grasp of what science actually tells us is good for relationships, or doesn't really care and is just giving bad advice for profit. In reality, happy relationships are based on teamwork, positive regard, friendship. Reducing human beings to an economic framework is a recipe for relational unhappiness.
She is not wrong here. We agree with this. Happy relationships are built on teamwork, on positive regard, on friendship, on two people who actually like each other, choosing each other every day. But here is what Dr. Anna skips entirely. How do you get there? How do men and women who are operating from completely different biological frameworks, different hormonal configurations, different definitions of commitment, different relationships with respect and admiration, how do they build that teamwork? That is the work, and neither Dr. Anna's debunking video nor Dr. Taraban's framework actually addresses it. One tells men they are wrong for feeling what they feel. The other validates the feeling, but offers no path forward.
Okay, let's look at this video. Men are the prize. Red pillars claim that men are the prize. Sprinkle content creators claim that women are the prize. In reality, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, no one is the prize in a relationship. A relationship consists of two human beings who should both feel valued and value the other person. If only one person feels like the prize and they do not prize their partner, that's an uneven dynamic that's not likely to last long or to be very happy.
So there seems to be a perennial debate online about who is the prize in modern relationships. Is the woman the prize or is the man the prize? And I'm here to weigh in on the matter because I think I can resolve this once and for all. Listen to me. If a top-shelf woman is a diamond, a top-shelf man is a diamond mine. Why? Because men are disproportionately the producers of value. On a global level, men, through their labor and effort and ingenuity, produce far more than their fair share of global GDP. And when you rise up the scale and examine the demographic characteristics of millionaires and billionaires, this observation becomes even more true. Like all the 20 richest men in the world built something. On the other hand, all the 20 richest women in the world received their wealth through divorce or inheritance. So if we're comparing apples to apples, that is a top-shelf woman to a top-shelf man, the conclusion is obvious. No one, man or woman, no one is going to prefer a single diamond, no matter how lovely, to a diamond mine.
Dr. Taraban claims that top-shelf men make value while top-shelf women receive it. So he really kind of tells on himself for how he completely neglects everything that women contribute to society. There's this notion in the manosphere that men are the only ones contributing. Men are the only ones inventing and furthering society, when in reality, women make up the majority of healthcare workers, the majority of education workers, the majority of childcare workers, both within and outside the home. And I can already hear the misogynistic clapback. But those are female fields, which means they are intrinsically devoid of any value because the masculine fields are the ones that are actually important. Okay, women also have important contributions to more traditionally masculine fields as well.
This part fascinated me. The debate shifts into who the real prize is. Men, women, diamonds, diamond mines. And both Dr. Orion and Dr. Anna get completely absorbed into arguing about who holds more value. But from a sociological perspective, that is the wrong question entirely. Because the question underneath the question is not who is worth more. The question is, why is this debate so loaded in the first place? Why do millions of men respond so strongly when this topic comes up? Why does a video about who the prize is get 50 times more engagement than a video about healthy relationships? One word: acknowledgement.
Acknowledge me.
Yes. Men want to be appreciated for what they bring to the table. Not celebrated, not worshipped, appreciated, seen, acknowledged. And in this current climate, that is consistently not happening. The same culture that tells men to man up, to provide, to protect, to lead, turns around and tells them their contributions are irrelevant, their biology is toxic, and their perspective is misogyny. And that is exactly where Dr. Anna loses the thread. She uses the word misogynist to describe Dr. Taraban's worldview. And maybe some of his conclusions earn that label. That is a separate conversation. But the moment you deploy that word, you have ended the inquiry. You have stopped asking why and started assigning blame. And a psychologist should know that assigning blame is not the same as understanding the dynamic. Remember this?
Oftentimes the things that you express, we'll say that's ridiculous. You couldn't have prevented that from happening. You weren't even in the same part of the country. You couldn't have saved her from that. Basically, we're saying you're not Superman. I'm not. I hold myself to account for being Superman. I should have been there. That's the other thing about your commitment is you can't commit to something you don't think you can win at. Your instincts will shut that down. You're not allowed to care about something you can't win at. And caring about something you can't win at, that's torture.
Alison Armstrong said it plainly after 35 years of research. Men hold themselves to Superman standards. They work 16-hour days and come home to an environment where they feel like they cannot win. They give everything they have, and here, I do not feel like a priority. That is not misogyny producing the response. That is exhaustion. That is a man who has been running on empty for so long that when someone on the internet finally names what he is feeling, even imperfectly, even with a framework that overstates the science, he clicks and he shares it and he comes back for more. Healthy relationships are not built by convincing one person they are worth more than the other. They are built when both people believe the unity creates something neither could create alone. That's this channel's thesis. We feed you life and you give us our sparkle, but you cannot get to that conversation while you are still arguing about who the diamond is. The obsession with who the prize is did not come from the manosphere. The manosphere did not invent that question. That question is the direct result of decades of men being told their contributions do not count. Their biology is a problem and their perspective is dangerous. When you spend long enough telling someone they are worth nothing, do not be surprised when they start loudly insisting they are worth something. That is not red pill content creating a problem. That is red pill content arriving after the problem was already there. Dr. Anna has the degree to understand that. The question is whether she wants to.
Listen, whenever red pillars' arguments are criticized, they resort to very predictable counter-arguments. I'm just telling the truth. It's the truth even if you don't like to hear it. What I'm saying is based on facts and logic and science, and you're just emotional because you don't like it. But I hope this video has showed that in reality their talking points are very far from scientific and logical. Sexual market value is a fringe online theory that has potential to seriously harm relationships, and a psychologist should know better than that, especially one who describes himself as providing valuable psychological knowledge to people. Dr. Taraban makes logical sounding arguments, but they're based on faulty definitions, revisionist history, sexist biases, inaccurate assumptions. He completely erases women's contributions as a way of justifying why women hold no value. He frames a Madonna whore complex as objective truth. He shares only half the equation when it's convenient for him. He uses loaded language, and even the same exact phenomenon, if applied to men, is used in much more respectful language than if applied to women. His conclusions have the potential to really put women in harm's way. I'd argue that following his dating advice is not only dangerous to relationships as a whole, but specifically to women's safety. I don't know if he genuinely believes the stuff he's spewing or if he's just capitalizing off a profitable niche. To be honest, I don't give a f. I'm honestly ashamed to have the same degree as him.
And here is where Dr. Anna actually makes her strongest point of the whole video. When red pill arguments get criticized, the response is always the same. I am just telling the truth. It is facts and logic. You are just emotional. She is right that this is a deflection. Presenting something as facts and logic does not make it immune from scrutiny, and using a psychology degree as a shield for claims that go beyond what the research actually supports is a problem regardless of which direction you are arguing in. But, and this is the key, she then does the exact same thing. She presents her counter-arguments as the scientific consensus and frames his audience as people who have been misled, without ever asking the central question, why are they there in the first place? Now here is the meta-observation that neither of these creators will make about themselves. Dr. Taraban built a psychology channel. His regular content got 8,000 views. His manosphere content got 400,000. So he followed the algorithm. Dr. Anna built a psychology channel, and she made a video reacting to Dr. Taraban's manosphere content, which is getting significantly more engagement than her regular content. She is doing exactly what she is criticizing him for, following the engagement, chasing the reaction, building an audience on the back of the same dynamic she is arguing against. The outrage and the content it is outraged about are two sides of the same algorithm. They need each other. They feed each other. Neither one exists without the other. That is not a criticism of Dr. Anna specifically. She makes some valid points. She clearly has genuine concerns about the impact of this content on women and on relationships. But the question she never asks is the most important one in the room. What are these men experiencing that has 50 times more of them clicking on Women Want It All than on a video about neglected kinds of love? What is the need underneath the content? Because if you are a psychologist and you cannot ask that question, you are not treating the patient. You are just diagnosing the symptom. This channel has been asking that question for years. The answer is always the same. People do not show up for content that makes them feel nothing. They show up for content that names what they are already feeling but could not articulate. Dr. Taraban named it for millions of men. Whether his framework is perfectly calibrated to the research or not, the real work is not debunking the framework. The real work is understanding why the framework landed and then asking what comes next. That is not Dr. Anna's video. That is MHD. Listen to all, follow none.
Management, we working. Protect yourself at all times. This video has officially been highlighted.